Hi, I'm Dan Murphy, and I'm here with two of the Dover-Sherborn boosters. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
That sounds great, Dan. Thanks for having us. This is Bill Scatchard. I'm president of the Dover-Sherborn Boosters Organization.
And I'm Al Hanmer. I'm one of the members of the Dover-Sherborn Boosters Organization.
Okay, so why don't we talk a little bit about what the boosters are and what you guys do?
So the Boosters is an organization that was started many years ago here in the community of Dover-Sherborn by a group of engaged parents that wanted to support the student body in their athletic accomplishments. And it's an organization that's been made up of a whole bunch of community leaders, if you will, that have come together to try to enhance the athletic experience of the Dover-Sherborn community. One of the unique assets of our community is that 80% of our students play a sport, which when you compare that to many other communities around the Commonwealth, that's a very unusual statistic from what I've been told. In fact, talking to Stephen Bliss, who has come in recently to kind of manage the whole district, you know, the community he came from was about 45 to 50% of the students that participated. So we've got huge numbers of kids that participate in our sports. We're here as a broader community to help round out their experience in a positive way.
And then what are some of the sports that students participate in?
You can imagine most of the classics. If you, Dan, I don't know if you grew up in the Dover-Sherborn community. I think you might have.
Yeah.
But certainly in the fall it's football, soccer, field hockey. The track team is active.
Golf.
Golf, thank you. Yep. Both on the boys and the girls side. In the winter it's basketball, alpine skiing. For the first time ever this year, we're going to have an indoor track season. That will be something new here at Dover-Sherborn. The community got behind sponsoring that. And then certainly in the spring, lacrosse for boys and girls, baseball, is a big sport. Outdoor track's a big sport. So it's pretty varied in terms of its appeal to the student population.
Yeah, and then what are some of the services that you provide for these athletes?
That's a great question. So, every year we take ownership of a lot of different areas, to benefit the community, including what we're here to talk a little bit about tonight is one of our largest fundraisers is our annual triathlon. This is the 9th annual triathlon. All of the proceeds that come from these events are poured back into the community. Essentially, we do that through a number of different ways. There are scholarships that we provide to our students on an annual basis. The kids that participate in the sports programs as captains are recognized, for their achievements through a series of scholarships. We end up underwriting a significant amount of equipment, capital equipment for the different teams that include shot clocks, for the gymnasium, sound systems for the stadium field, batting cages, for the baseball teams and softball teams. So it's pretty varied in its appeal in terms of how we put that money back into the community to benefit the kids.
Okay, and then let's talk somewhat about how you raise this money.
Yeah, do you have any money, Dan, you'd like to donate to the boosters? We're always looking for willing participants. So fundraising. It's kind of one of our key initiatives, if you will. Part of what we do every year in terms of fundraising is based on community participation and non-community participation. And what I mean by that is this weekend we're going to have our 9th annual triathlon, which has become our largest fundraiser of the year. The beautiful thing about that event is that it brings the community together in a meaningful way through volunteer opportunities that we have that are numerous, but a lot of the participants are people coming from outside the community. So the money that's coming into the community to benefit our kids is coming from sources outside, the broader community to help, the kids and through our initiative and endeavors try to, stimulate the equipment purchases and things like that. So triathlon is big. Certainly we manage the snack shack, and all the proceeds go back through the boosters program. Gate receipts go back through the boosters program, and that's people attending our various events, whether it's a football event, basketball, hockey event. Is a big part of the fundraising that we do. So it's pretty varied in terms of.
Okay, and let's talk somewhat about this triathlon. What's it consist of, and what's going to happen with it?
Well, considering we have one of the original founders of the triathlon with us, Al Hamner. Why don't I let Al take that question?
Sure. So the triathlon is known as a sprint level triathlon, which typically has a typical sprint triathlon will have three components, which is a swim, a bike, and then a run. The distances are shorter than some of the longer ones, like the classic Hawaiian Ironman that people may have seen on the television, etc. So sprint level triathlons are really geared towards people that are like all of us, trying to keep ourselves in shape, work out, getting kids involved, etc. And a typical swim distance might be a quarter of a mile swim, which is essentially what ours is, up to perhaps a third of a mile or even up to a half a mile. The bike portion will be anywhere from 10 to 15 plus miles. Ours is about 14.8 miles, and that runs through Sherborn and Dover, the nice streets which are very familiar to many people who bike a lot around here, as some of the typical bike routes that some of the bike clubs use. And then the run is generally in the 5K or shorter, so around 3.1, 3.4 miles, sometimes a little longer than that. So, and they're strung together as either one event that a single individual can do and go from one to the other, or they can be done as a relay where one person does one leg of it, another person does another, and then the third person does the last portion. So it is staged in two locations, which is a little unusual for triathlons. As the swim is in Farm Pond and Sherborn, you bike through Sherborn and Dover, and then the run is through some of the streets here in Dover, over in the Donnelly Estates, which is one of the well-known training runs for the cross-country and the track teams. So we did it essentially as a way to sort of incorporate both towns and get people involved in something that was a health-oriented and essentially spirit and camaraderie type of and volunteerism type of oriented event that would bring both of the towns together. We get people from both Sherborn and Dover together to help out, which is something that, as Bill has already mentioned, collectively aids in the whole sports-oriented culture here at the high school.
Okay, and then what sort of caused this to be created?
So this was created as just a grassroots idea that a former Dover resident, Peter Kelsey, and I came up with on a training run while we were training for a triathlon that we were participating in the middle 2000s, the first decade, and we thought that wouldn't it be a great way to sort of get people to come to the town here, but also wouldn't it be a reasonable fundraiser? We had no idea that it would attain the success that it has, essentially we put it together as something to benefit the sports organizations because frankly there's a very well organized fundraising capacity for the academics in the school, and so we decided that we would develop this for something that was in need of perhaps a fresh look at the fundraising way. We had been to many fundraisers and galas and things that were held by the boosters, which were great. We figured this was something more in keeping with the spirit of the boosters, which is a little bit more athletically inclined. So we had both participated in numerous triathlons and Pan Mass Challenge, etc. So we decided to take all the best components of all of those races that we had been involved in and put it together to produce something that might work. And so we really had no idea if it would, but we worked very hard the first year and in subsequent years as well, tried to dot all the I's and cross the T's and get it organized, and it sold out the first year about a month or two ahead of time, and it has sold out every year since then. So it really has taken on a life of its own in the triathlon world, and so we are, as we are even today, turning people away that want to be in the race. So it's a good deal.
So how many people participate?
So we typically have about 300 people. Part of that is based on safety, which is our main goal is to maintain a safe race. So we keep the numbers down so that we can control and carefully orchestrate what happens during the swim part in Farm Pond, which of course is where the most risk is. And it really isn't. We've never had an issue, but that's partly because we have gotten a number of lifeguards this year. I think we have 12 lifeguards for the 300 people, and they're scattered throughout the course. We have flotation devices, and we have boats and everything to help keep people feel like they're safe. And then from there it goes on to the bike course, and we have volunteers all around to help people make sure that they stay on course, and then same thing in the run scenario.
Okay. And then what are some of the logistical challenges setting up this course?
So there are some. So we have, because of parking issues at Farm Pond, which is just a relatively small venue, we take over the entire parking lot with our bike racks for people to rack their bikes so that we don't have the ability to have people start and finish the race in the same place. So we have to have two different transition areas whereby we have the so-called swim bike transition area at Farm Pond, and then we have a second transition area here at the high school, which is the bike run transition. And so we have to make sure that we get all the people there to start the race, and then we have to make sure we get all the equipment back here in an organized fashion to finish the race when athletes are done and they want to come to find their equipment. They have to be able to find it. So we basically modeled it after the Pan Mass Challenge that has an extraordinarily militaristic efficiency to their ability to get everything back in one place and organized. And you know, I'm not sure we'll ever get to quite that level of organization, but that's what we ascribe to. And it's worked out okay so far.
And you've had a lot of positive interaction with the towns of Dover and Sherborn who, you know, are along the course, or, you know, just interacting with the town governments and all that has generally been positive, you feel?
It's been very, very positive because, and rightly so, they were very skeptical at first because of the number of people and the risk involved. And so Dover and Sherborn have been very careful to have us what would you say? We have to meet a series of
standards.
Exactly, that's what it is. A series of standards that they've established. So we have to have sign off from the fire department, from the police department, from the highway department, from the Farm Pond committees, from the police both in Dover and Sherborn. We have police details in both towns that keep traffic controlled and keep the athletes as safe as possible. So that has engendered a lot of trust, and therefore we've had a very good relationship. Not to mention the fact that we keep the places cleaner than they were when we first got there. So when we sweep both locations here at the high school and at Farm Pond when we're done, we pick up all the trash. It's cleaner than it was before we got there. So if you're a good neighbor, then people are going to invite you back, and so far we've been pretty successful for the last 9 years.
And to Al's point, one of the things that they asked us to do is on August 26th, we had to go to the Sherborn Selectmen's meeting, and the selectmen were very supportive, again, of the triathlon, but they wanted to know, as Al described, that there's this checklist that we had to go down, and literally we had to check off and get signatures from all of the different organizations across the Sherborn governing body, if you will, to make sure that they signed off that everything was safe, and they approved of us hosting the triathlon again, including one of our own, Emily Hands, is leading the charge for the lifeguards this year. So every year there's usually someone from either the DS swim team or the DS snappers organization that steps up and will lead the charge, as Al mentioned, around recruiting the lifeguard component that will be available to manage the event during the actual race day. And as a student in the community, she took it upon herself to reach out, recruit a bunch of her friends, and she'll be taking charge of that component of it. But the selectmen are really critical about us having all of those individuals lined up in advance before they will approve of the event every year.
Okay, and sort of on the a related note, like how much interaction do you have with students for this event and for all booster events for that matter?
Well, Dan, for this event, we couldn't do it without the students. We couldn't do it without the students primarily because they represent a significant component of our volunteers. The reason why, as Al articulated, we can host this event every year as it's grown in size and scale is that the students from all of the teams that are representative of fall sports are volunteering for different areas of the essentially becoming a two-day event. Setup and staging on Saturday and actual race day on Sunday. So they come in and volunteer for different aspects: setup, takedown, cleanup, coursework, what have you. But without the students' participation, there's no way we could pull this event off.
No, that's terrific, and then they get such great benefits from participating in this too.
They get community service hours, which is to them a great thing. You can get those signed up on them.
Yeah. So then maybe next week should we talk somewhat about sort of your fundraising goals for the year, or?
Yeah, that would be great, Dan, because last year we went through one of the more significant milestones of fundraising for the DS Boosters, in terms of their history. And that was to recognize the plan that we put together with the regional school committee that was done by an outside engineering firm to essentially upgrade our entire campus, if you will, over a phased approach. And last year, phase one was essentially the initiative that we put forth, which was to remove the natural grass on our stadium field and put down a synthetic turf surface. We wanted to do that for a number of reasons. One, from a safety perspective, there is research that shows that surface is safer than a grass surface. Two, in some cases, the grass surface was unplayable because of weather issues. Our teams couldn't get out there early in the spring. Our teams couldn't play in it when it was perpetually wet. In many cases, we couldn't host playoff games because if the field was unplayable. It was a barrier to hosting a home playoff game. So one of the initiatives was to upgrade that surface. And through a appeal to the community, once the plan was approved by the regional school committee, the town of Dover, the appeal to the community was private fundraising through the Boosters organization, generating significant proceeds to upgrade that surface. We were successful in through a series of 5 donations, raising about $1.1 million last year that allowed us to begin construction last spring and end up with the first game being played on that in, I think, early September of last season. So that was a significant milestone for us in terms of, A, fundraising, being able to accomplish a significant project like that within a time frame and a budget goal that we had. But we're not done because with that regional campus upgrade, there are 2 additional phases that we'd like to accomplish. I've got a couple boards here to kind of share, with the community. Essentially, the first is the orientation here is the middle school is located here. The main drive into the parking lot is off here to the left. But phase 2 of this regional upgrade, this plan, is to put a turf surface on what would currently be the football practice field adjacent to the middle school area. On this surface, it will basically be the same size as the stadium field surface. It will be lined the same way. One of the reasons why I call that out is that we can support I think 6 sports on this surface, including boys and girls lacrosse, field hockey, football, and as you can see here on this example, we're also going to have a JV softball surface on this area as well. This will allow us to support, multiple practices, multiple games, if you will, on 2 synthetic surfaces, which we think will be a significant benefit to our athletes. But this is also part of the phase 2 of our regional plan. And then lastly, I've got the other diagram that I wanted to share, which is the upgrade of the tennis facility that we have. So the goal would be to remove the 4 tennis courts that we have adjacent to the parking lot over by the stadium field. That will be replaced by a grass surface that will allow for us to create 2 11v11 surfaces for additional field space for our athletes. And in response to removing those courts where the current varsity softball field is, the middle school is here. The varsity parking lot is back to our right. But this will now be a new tennis complex for our athletes. It will feature 6 courts and a multi-purpose outdoor basketball surface here with a seating area, a storage area for supplies. But one of the unique things about having the 6 courts is that for most matches, 5 courts are required. We only have 4 currently, so this will be a much better footprint for our athletes, to work on this and play on this surface. So this is all part of the additional second phase of the regional upgrade, the plan of attack. We need about $2.5 million to complete both the tennis facility, the synthetic surface on the practice field, as well as some other minor upgrades with backstops and walkways that we've got planned as well. So we're through phase 1. We have essentially phase 2 and phase 3 in front of us. It's a significant effort to fundraise because this is all private donations through the community to generate that type of capital. But we have been approached by a number of citizens who have interest in the project. They have an interest in making an impact in the community. We have some history of being successful with this as it relates to phase 1 and our ability to generate 1.1 in additional capital to do that. So we're optimistic that we can do this. The term is a little longer than we were hoping for because of the size and scope of the project, but right now we're all about kind of a fundraising initiative to try to accomplish these 2 goals.
Okay, and what kind of timeline are you looking at to accomplish this?
It's a great question, Dan, and to be candid, we have not put a timeline on it just because of the size and scope of the project. Certainly, the path of least resistance is one donor coming to the table saying, I'd like to underwrite the entire project, and if that happens, we could break ground as soon as next summer. The construction part of any of these projects would have to happen over the summer because it's least disruptive to the student population. But again, the community at large is going to respond to the call to action with this. There are going to be specific donors that are going to respond in a larger way. And depending on the outcome of the fundraising outreach we have, we could begin as soon as next summer or we could begin as soon as 2015. There's really no timeline to it.
Yeah, and would these facilities be used exclusively by Dover-Sherborn students, or would they also be open potentially to other private interests?
Yeah, that's another good question. So the appeal to these would certainly be to our Dover-Sherborn High School students and middle school students, and they would be using these, certainly for all of their matches, for games, for practices and things like that. But these also have a broader appeal to the community. Youth sports is certainly interested and currently uses the stadium surface that we did. So they would be able to take advantage of this additional surface for youth sports, whether it's soccer, lacrosse, any of those, football, any of those organizations that needs an additional field and playing surface would be able to use this, as well as, in the community we have adult soccer leagues that play on these surfaces. Any softball could use this surface, for instance, over here on the practice field as part of the configuration there. Tennis appeals to the mass in town. You come over here at any night and the courts are active with community people coming in and playing, so it would be fair game for everyone, including the population here at the high school.
Oh, that's great. So I don't know if there's anything else additionally you want to say. I mean, I could ask you questions about how you guys got involved in boosters if you'd be interested in talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved personally because I had skin in the game with my my kids. They were into athletics and into sports, and I thought, hey, sitting on a sideline and supporting them by driving to home or away matches was one thing, but there's a kind of a greater call to action for me, and I thought, what better way to serve the community to get involved with boosters. I can tell you that it's a wonderful organization. We have a lot of fun. There's the constant need for additional resources to get involved. But in the end of the day, between what we do with the fundraising, what we do with the funding committee to give back to the community, what we've been able to do with the Raiders Rack, and seeing all the kids, around the community branded in DS gear, looking like very sharp, and seeing the adults get into it, and it's been amazing starting that 5 years ago from nothing to see where it is today, occupying a storefront here in Linquist Common. It's really satisfying to be part of an experience like that, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to say how you got involved too, Al?
So I got involved mainly due to the fact that I've had 4 kids that have gone through Dover-Sherborn High School, the last of whom is now a freshman, my daughter Emma. And I came in primarily through the triathlon, but I've also been known to flip burgers over at the concession stand,
Burn burgers.
Burn burgers. And I would say that the thing that has sort of been the highlight for me really has to come in contact with a lot of other parents of similar interest in the community. And I think what Bill has talked about, the behind-the-scenes organization and commitment, both up in time especially, but also financially, to aiding our kids and those that help teach our kids, is really a sort of a humbling experience. It's been really great to see that, and I have wanted to be part of that. So I give the time that I can to help out.
Okay.
The third wheel in this in this group, who's not able to join us tonight because he's in Salt Lake City on a business trip, is a guy who's been kind of the backstop for the boosters for probably 9 or 10 years now, at least minimum if I think back. But Frank Perlmutter recruited me into the boosters a couple years ago, and single-handedly drove the boosters organization through a number of years. He had 3 children that were active in the boosters, but through Frank's efforts, kind of cajoling, corralling, recruiting, he kept the boosters going, and he's still, we call him chairman emeritus of the boosters, but he's still actively involved and telling us what to do on a regular basis.
Okay, well, I should ask how can people who are not currently involved get more involved with the boosters? Or
Yeah, Dan, the best way to do it is to, first of all, if anybody's interested, www.dsboosters.com. There's information there about the triathlon. There's information there about the boosters. There is contact information if they would choose to get involved. They can send me an email, wskatch@gmail.com. Is the best way to get in touch with me. That information is on the website. We are going through our membership drive right now. If people in the community are interested, we are always looking for new members. With the membership, you get boosters passes, which allow you free access to things like football games, basketball games, hockey games. So we're in the process of that membership drive right now. I encourage people to get involved with that if they can. And also from another fundraising perspective, with the triathlon, we have a huge community of friends and family, we call them, that have participated and helped underwrite the cost of the triathlon by making gifts to the triathlon. They're recognized through individual signage around the route, but individuals can give directly online. This year we've added a credit card option online, so they can join the boosters and become a member online. They can contribute to the triathlon through the Friends and Family Network online, directly through the website. So if they want to get involved, that's the best place to go.
That's terrific. Maybe I should ask a little bit more about talking about the Raiders Rack and what's available at that.
What size are you, Dan? Are you a medium? Are you a large?
I'm like
a
small medium. Yeah, I'm pretty tiny.
Well, if you are a small or a medium, we've got ample sizes of Under Armour gear, Nike gear, you name it, it's over there. Fleece, water bottles, shoes, flip-flops. It's incredible. The exciting thing is that the inventory just arrived for this year. There's been a number of individuals that have led that cause: Jen Collins, Joanna Brock, Patty Gallagher, Kristen Markin has taken over an active role there. But there's a number of people from the community that volunteer their time for a couple hours, because it's open several days each week, where people from the community can go in. We've got kids that pop in that are having lunch at Linquist Commons, and they're going in and buying things. So it's been unbelievably successful for us to open that up.
That's great. So yeah, if you have any other additional thoughts you want to add, that's great. But otherwise, I don't think I have any further questions. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is great. Thank you very much.
Right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.